game that's, or actually playoff series that's going on. So at this time, I would like to recognize Marique Price, a third grader at Headnight Elementary. Marique is the son of Leanne and Ryan Price, and they'll lead us in our pledge. And did I pronounce your name right, buddy? I didn't. Come here.
Help him out.
Tell me how to, right here.
Merrick.
There we go. Let's give Merrick a hand before he starts.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, young man.
Thanks.
Okay, at this time, I would like approval of the agenda, but there'll be one change in the order of the business. Ms. Jones with Alexander Head Start, she will lead off. She needs to, she has another obligation that she needs to get to, so if the board would approve the agenda with that change, and we would have Ms. Jones come forward.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Jones, you have the floor. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Last week I provided some information to you. You should have that in your packet about 2 action items that I need to talk to you about tonight. I'm here to ask for your approval to use the cost of living adjustment of 2% to offset the additional cost of health insurance and retirement benefits for the 1920 year. You did approve the COLA at the January meeting, but my program specialist in Atlanta has asked that we have it listed in the minutes as a separate item. And so that's why I'm here again to ask you to approve it as a separate item. And that cost of living adjustment is in the amount of $21,727. That does leave a shortfall, and I do have my fiscal manager, Maria Hefner, here with me tonight. If you have any questions, she's here to assist me. But it does leave a shortfall of $4,984, and we have made some adjustments to our Head Start budget to compensate for that shortage, and we've taken money from computer hardware and supplies, and we do have enough in supplies to get us through the year. So that's the first action item that I'm asking for your approval.
And that 2% COLA is federal dollars?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll move to approve using those COLA dollars to offset that.
I'll second.
Have a motion second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the second item is concerning the duration grant that we received back in March. I talked to you earlier about the fact that we were given just a few minutes to make a decision about changes that we may need to make to the duration grant whenever we were told to go from adding, was it 43 children, Maria? 45 children to 63 children. We had a matter of minutes to make a decision. So at that point, we added 2 more TA positions. After the managers and the team looked at it, we determined that we do not need those additional 2 teacher assistants. So I did contact the regional office. I asked them if I needed to revert that money, and she told me if we had something that we could use the money for, then to just make those budget adjustments and then to upload it in the system. I did that March the 27th and March the 28th. And then she asked me to get approval from Policy Council and from the board. So in your documents, you have what we're proposing to do with that money. I would like to use $15,600 from those 2 positions to pay for the 120 5-point safety harnesses. For those of you in the audience, our children have to be in safety harnesses on our little mini buses. So they're in seat belts, and those cost over $100 a piece. And then, the taxes, titles, and tags for those 6 buses was like $22,000. Okay? And then in 1920, I'm proposing to add, to make my education disabilities manager and health services managers 12 months. I've spoken to them, and they have agreed to go from 10-month to 12-month. It just helps with adding the additional children and the paperwork and everything that's associated with it. And that includes a 2% salary increase for all managers for the additional duties. So that's a second action item.
Okay. Okay, you've heard the presentations from Ms. Jones. Could I get a motion regarding the action item 2?
Move to approve.
A motion, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Cooksey, for your help and
You're welcome.
discussion as our liaison. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, item 3 will be our honors and recognition, and I'll recognize Dr. Jennifer Head.
Board Member Cooksey and Board Member Schrum, will you all join me in helping with these recognitions? I say this at every meeting, but the honors and recognitions portion of the meeting is my most favorite time of the time that we spend together every month, and it's because we highlight outstanding students and staff. Tonight, we're pleased to recognize the Skills USA program at Alexander Central High School. 20 students placed in the top 5 in the state competition that was held in Greensboro, North Carolina. Skills USA is a national nonprofit student organization that serves students enrolled in career and technical education training programs at public high schools and colleges. Skills USA's mission is to empower its members to become world-class workers and responsible American citizens. Skills USA combines technical skills training with instruction in the employability skills that make a well-rounded worker and citizen. ACHS students being recognized this evening for their successful state competitions include additive manufacturing. It was a team effort. Please join me in congratulating Wesley Dunsford and Austin Sink, 3rd place in the state. And parents, if you are in attendance, I am going to call the parent names. If you will stand when I call your name. Wesley Dunsford is the son of Riley and Krista Dunford, and Austin Sink is the son of Paul and Jennifer Sink. So, Paul, I thought I saw you in the back of the room. Thank you for being here. Give them another round of applause. And Renee Meade is, do you want to do individually or do you want to do the group as a whole? Okay, good. Guys, if you'll stay where you are. Thank you. In the next category, we have architectural drafting. 5th place winner was Drake Desiker. Round of applause. Drake is the son of Douglas and Jennifer Desiker, and when Jennifer finishes taking that picture, she can stand up. Good job. In carpentry, we had 2 place winners. In 4th place, Holden Ritchie, and in 2nd place, Jay Stein. A round of applause. Holden is the son of Danny and Adele Ritchie, and Jay is the son of Jeffrey and Tiffany Stein. Next category, early childhood education. Caitlin Hayes, 2nd place, and Lydia Branson, 1st place. Lydia. Okay. Very good. And Lydia is the daughter of Tabitha Eggers. All right. Electrical construction wiring, Julian Alarano, third place, and Isaiah Fleming, second place. Okay, all right. I know that some of our students had to work tonight. The next category, electrical wiring, beginner, Evan Mowry, fifth place. Evan is the son of Mark and Becca Mowry. And did I say that right, Evan?
Yes.
Thank you. Another round of applause. Entrepreneurship was a team effort. We have Daniel Elmore, McGuire Hiddle, Hector Santa Maria, and Abby DeJarnett, third place state winners. Abby, are you alone this evening? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Abby is the daughter of Bill and Alicia DeJarnett. Then we have first aid and CPR, Garrison DeJarnett, first place state winner. Garrison is the son of Bill and Alicia DeJarnett. And I do believe we recognized you last year as a first place winner. Is that right? Third last year. Okay, he's moving right up. First in the state. And then the Health Knowledge Bowl team, again, a team effort, Caroline Erkman, Joseph Smithy, Rebecca Van Story, and Jordan Mitchell, first place winners. Okay, our group grows. Caroline is the daughter of Jason and Larissa Erkman. Joseph is the son of Todd Smithy and Amy Sprinkle. Rebecca is the daughter of Alan and Tracy Van Story, and grandparents can stand too, Tommy. And then Jordan is the daughter of John and Michelle Mitchell. Another round of applause. Industrial motor control, Justin Denick, second place state winner. Justin is the son of Daniel and Glenda Denick. Another round of applause. And last but not least, we have Nicholas Pennell, construction tool ID, first place state winner. And before Mrs. Meade starts lining you up for what will be a beautiful picture, I would be remiss if I did not recognize the advisors who work with these students, because they are the ones that make this happen. In health sciences, if you will please come forward, Lauren Mull, Angie Ford, and Marilyn Frick. Family Consumer Sciences, Courtney Millsaps and Amber Huffman. Drafting, Roy Hadley. Carpentry, Josh Bowles. And electrical, and then I understand that we had some folks to help us get to the state competition, and we need to pay special thanks to Donna Reed, Sherry Baird, and Gary Stafford for the roles that they played as well. Woo, woo, what a great looking group. Okay, good luck, Mrs. Meade. Best wishes. take instruction from Renee. How does that look right here, Steve? It looks like a little, they're back a little further. Do they need to come up a little?
It would help if, Mr. Phillips was gonna step up one stand.
Okay.
If we wanted to balance it, or if you want to step in there too, that would make it even it out.
What? Right. Well, that's not the block
So
here.
will you stand in between the two ends?
Right here?
Butt forward. Slide back in. No, Harry, slide back in. Yeah, just slide over just slightly. Rainy, I wanna see you. Look at those faces.
Another round of applause.
Thank you, ladies.
Board Member Brixey, will you help me with the next presentation? Marnie Wills is an exceptional children's teacher at Ellendale Elementary, and she has recently been named the 2018-2019 Exceptional Children Teacher of the Year by the Autistic Education Foundation. Mrs. Wills has taught in Alexander County Schools since 2003, where she began teaching as a separate setting teacher at Bethlehem Elementary School. Mrs. Wills transitioned to Ellendale Elementary this year in one of the two classrooms dedicated to serving students in Alexander County with autism. Mrs. Wills is nationally board certified as an exceptional needs specialist for early childhood through young adulthood. She was selected as Teacher of the Year for Bethlehem in 2007-08 and again in 2016-17. She also serves on the Alexander County Autism Team. Mrs. Wills' nomination stated, Mrs. Wills' greatest strength in the classroom is her talent for differentiating instruction to meet the individual student needs. She is knowledgeable and is a master teacher for students with special needs. Teachers were nominated from Alexander, Caldwell, Catawba, Hickory City, and Newton-Conover school districts. Each school system can nominate 3 teachers and 2 assistants for the honor of EC Teacher of the Year and EC Assistant of the Year. But I have to agree, they picked the very best out of all of those systems. I worked with Marnie for many years at Bethlehem. And how many times did I walk into your classroom and say, Marnie Wills, there is a special place in heaven for you. And I believe that. She is a very special teacher with a very special population, and I just want to say we're so proud of you. A job very well done. Come forward, Marnie Wills.
Great job.
Okay, she'll want you in front of that. Marnie, you'll get in the middle. Other staff members nominated by the Alexander County School System included Terry Fincannon and Donald Robinette as teachers, and then teacher assistant Regina Millsaps. And actually, there's a special place in heaven for all of those individuals. A job well done.
this time, I know our young high school students have very busy schedules, and you're more than welcome to stay through the entirety of the meeting, but if you want to slip out, now's a wonderful time. But I hope you have a good evening.
Great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Is your French crowd still here? Is that what it is?
It's just the teachers and students, yeah, they're all presenting a report on it.
So they're gonna do that in French? I know, but that's it.
Officer Knight, if you would check the public comment sign-up sheet, please.
Oh, there,
Oh,
Brad.
okay. Okay. We have no public comment applications for tonight, so we will move on to consent agenda you have before you. Could I get a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, we will recognize Mr. Charles Draper, Principal, Head Knott Elementary School update.
Good evening, Board, and Dr. Hefner, thank you for having me today to represent Hidden Knott Elementary School. I was informed that I have 7 minutes. I was told 10 at first, but Ms. Mahaffey tried to keep me on schedule. So I will jump straight into things.
That doesn't count against you. You take your time.
You're fine,
Yeah.
you're fine. Is this where?
You may have to turn it on the side.
No, there's on. It is on. Yep. Technology is still working sometimes, right? Yeah. If you just want to flip through it. Okay. There we go. No, got you. You can click about 3 times. Here's a couple. This year at Hidden Knott Elementary School, we have focused on our big rocks. And being a leader in me school, we look at our big rocks, and we know that if we focus on those, the little things will come. So at our opening staff meeting, I showed this slide, and we have focused on academics, trust, and everyone doing their job well. At Hidden Knott, we were labeled a low-performing school. We haven't focused on that this year, but we have focused on the academic piece, and I'll talk through that through the next couple of slides. Trust, on any team or organization, you have to trust one another. So we've been building trust with our staff, with our students, with our community, and we continue to do that throughout this year. And then everybody doing their job well. Our school doesn't run efficiently or effectively unless everybody does their job, from administration to teachers to cafeteria staff, bus drivers. So these have been the 3 things that we have come back to constantly throughout the year as things have come up, or as we wanted to add new initiatives. Do they align with our big rocks? We also have our wildly important goals that we focused on this year, and so we look at these. So we have our reading and math goals for kinder through 2nd grade, reading 70% proficiency in math, 80% proficiency in grades 3 through 5, reading 55%, and math 65% proficiency. And then also our attendance goal of an average daily attendance of 95% proficient. And we are excited to get our end of the year scores, to be able to look at these and see how we've met these goals, and we're definitely making strides to meet these goals. So items of focus, how are we going to meet those wildly important goals? These are some things that we've focused on. The first one is our schedule. I met with every staff member in the building over the summer whenever I was appointed principal at Hidden Night, and the constant theme that continued to come up was protect our instruction time, protect our instruction time. So we have worked very hard to do that this year. You're fine. Yeah. So we've worked very hard to do that this school year. We've provided 120-minute blocks for our language arts and math blocks, and within that time, there's been intervention and enrichment time and built into that. We have focused on our Learning Focus PD this year, which is a district initiative, but also at our school site, which we focus on standards-based lessons, which standards-based lessons, so all of our lesson plans go back to the standards. Essential questions, which is a question on the board that drives that lesson. It can be for that day or over a couple of days, and then engagement through high yield strategies. All of our kinder through third grade teachers have been trained in Orton Gillingham instruction, which is a multi-sensory approach to phonics. And our students have received that instruction this year in kinder, first, second, and third grade, and we have seen the benefits of that. And it really allows students to meet their learning needs, whether it's through visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and the plate in the bottom right corner is one example of that. Students writing in sand trays to work on phonics. We provide additional reading supports in our upper grades with curriculum associates material, junior grade books, and added additional teacher assistant time for our upper grades so that they can have that time during the intervention blocks and to work on those small group instructions to remediate and enrich our students. This is our third year implementing Leader in Me. While that was not a big rock for us and our main focus this school year, we have continued to focus on the 7 habits and teach those to our students as well. So we've been doing a lot, and our staff has been very busy this year with each of those initiatives. Some highlights this year: we have had various family and community involvement activities, from reading nights, math nights. We had a variety show at the end of November, which is a fancy way to say a talent show. We had students come out and showcase their singing. We had card shows. We had students telling jokes. We had students on scooters jumping ramps, and it was a great night just to see our kids really showcase their talents. We had a bingo night, which has been a staple at Hidden Night Elementary School now for several years. A huge turnout. Bingo night's a lot of fun at Hidden Night, and we raised a lot of money for our school on that night. ESL Family Night, Leadership Day. We had about 80 community members come out for that, and we showcased what our students do during Genius Hour. And our students also had some leadership jobs on that day as well, and then our Science Night. Just last week, Cramden Institute provided computers for 80 of our families, and I would like to thank Ms. Susan Gant. She provided that opportunity for our students, and so we picked 80 families that do not have computers in the household. And they actually got a desktop computer. They came in, and we worked with them. They had to set up the computer and then log on to it, and a lot of applications were already pre-downloaded on the computer, so if they didn't have internet at home, they had access to encyclopedia, Word docs, and all kinds of various apps. So that was really neat, and a really neat program, so we're thankful for that opportunity. This year, at this point in the school year, we have decreased office referrals by 50%. Currently, we have 92 this school year, and last year at this time we had 187. And there's a lot of reasons why that has happened, but I go back to the schedule being consistent. Students need a consistent schedule. Whenever you throw them off their routines, you see behaviors. But then the next bullet point, we also added a in-school suspension and behavior coordinator this year through our Title I funds. And Ms. Perkins serves in that position, and she has been a huge asset to check in with students throughout the school day and to mentor students as well. So we've added some supports through our Title I funds. This past year, we were a PBIS Green Ribbon School, and we plan to continue to apply for that PBIS recognition next year as well. A few other highlights: we added a TA position that allowed us to have an art class during our enhancement block, and that was provided through Title I funds as well. And it's, whenever we talk about the whole child, it is neat to go into this art class and see some of our students that aren't great with ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but they're just thriving in this art class. We have had so many students talk about how they love in an art class, and they're working a different part of their brain whenever they're going in there and they're drawing and writing and creating. But we did get to highlight 11 students. They were represented at the Hidnight Center Regional Artists Exhibit. And one of our students received first place and 5 others received honorable mentions. And I went to that and I was talking to one student. I said, did you ever think a drawing on a piece of paper that you colored and you formulated, you created, would be on a wall and people would be walking around in an art exhibit and you would win first place? Did you ever think that would be possible? And they got a big smile on their face and said, no way, never thought it would. So just a very neat experience for our students. We've added extended planning, several different supports for our MTSS process. Extended planning, we give our teachers 85 minutes a month where they come during extended planning. We have additional PD and planning time to dig into data. We have planning with a purpose every Tuesday where my instructional coach or administration goes in and meets with each grade level and talks about pacing or resources they might need in the classroom. And then every 2 weeks we have student discussions where we meet and talk about our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students that are struggling academically, behaviorally, or with attendance, and what interventions we're putting in place for those students. Are they working? If they're not, we reevaluate what interventions we're going to run on those students, and we just continue to have that discussion throughout the year. So those 3 things have definitely added value and supported our staff as well with the MTSS process. The last bullet point there, we did win the county canned food drive, which we're very excited about. And just to preface that, it's not, the canned foods are great and, they gave back to our community, but the excitement that we generated in our building, and it goes back to where if you have healthy competition, it drives success. And all year long with our students, we've been celebrating their diagnostic results, their assessments, and you see the pride in our students and you see the excitement. But with the canned food drive at the beginning of the school year, that just kind of set the stage for the excitement that's going on in our building right now. So that's all I have for you. I do have a short video that I'd like to show. This is a video that I showed at our Leadership Day, and our students are just sharing what they love about Hidnight. So.
About Hidnight.
I love spots, I love his shop, I love his keyboard, I love my friends, I love music, I love my art, I love being. The playground, my class, I like my teacher. Learning. I like my friends and my teacher. My favorite thing about school is counting on it in math. My favorite thing about school is going to PE and exercise time. I like to read. I like to read chapter books. My favorite books are Bless Start, Bless the Hubs, and there's the first grade. My elementary school because I like Prodigy and I like my principal. Favorite thing about Hidnight is meeting new friends and teachers. I like Hidnight School because I like my teacher and I like Prodigy. My favorite thing to do is math because I like doing math like division, multiplication, subtract and add, and I get to take diagrams, vertical ways, and number lines, and there's so much fun. What I like about Hidnight is that we get to do activities with other people. What I like about Hidnight is when my class goes to PE, my class gets to do exercises. I love my friends and teachers because we do math games. Because the students and teachers are so nice. We get to go on field trips and every day we learn new stuff. We get to do activities, fun activities, and we get to learn something new stuff, and we get to do a lot of activities, like core activities. I love art class. I love all the specials that we got. I love that we have a lot of new fun stuff.
What's your favorite part about school?
My favorite part about school is that there's nice people here and they have really nice. One thing I love about Midnight is how respectful people are and how good teachers teach their students. So my favorite part about school is probably learning new and fun stuff and just learning new stuff in general.
My favorite part about school is the playground, and the teachers are really nice, and all the kids are nice to you, and nobody's left out.
I think that says it all right there. So with that being said, if there's any questions or comments.
Mr. Draper, I just had a question about the 80 families. How did you come up with that number, or?
We talked with the teachers, and we actually polled our students.
Okay.
And then between my counselor and social worker and a number of other support staff members, we looked at a bunch of information that we had and tried to identify the families that needed those the most.
That's just amazing to me that.
And just the
able to do that.
look on the families, the kids' faces when they came in and the computer lit up and they knew it was going to go home and that it was going to be theirs. I mean, that was it was a neat process all around.
So nobody was left out, just like that little girl said. You know, you helped 80 folks that didn't have that technology in their home.
And Chairman Odom, I went to the Leadership Day, and it was so nice. I know Ms. Hope does a leader in me too, which I wasn't, I'm not familiar with it. And it was amazing. The 4th and 5th grade choruses sang in the gym, and then we rotated in small groups around the school. Got to see every class in every grade level. And like for 5 minutes, you could just look, and it was amazing. And the happy smiles on those kids. There's some happy kids in Midnight. So I was really impressed.
That was your homeschool growing up?
Yes, go Midnight.
There you go. Well, we certainly appreciate the work you're doing, Mr. Draper, and we know that you have Mr. Mabry with you, and you know, I have about 24 years of this ear and that ear experience at Midnight with my children going through there, et cetera, but great things are occurring down there, and we certainly appreciate both your efforts. Sometimes I refer to you as Batman Robin. You don't know that. thought it was time to come clean. But we certainly appreciate all your efforts.
Great job.
Good job.
At this time, I will recognize School Board Member Bridget Ryan to introduce and expound on the French Exchange Program, so I will not mispronounce another name tonight.
I'll help you out.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Madame Griner and Miss Edsel, and then you have some students with you, and they're going to tell you guys about the French trip, or the trip to France, I guess we should say, that we went on. So I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening and bonsoir. I'm here this evening to present to you about our French exchange program and our recent trip to France. This is my 6th time actually organizing this exchange with the Lycée Saint-Ouen and Paul de Mer, and the 2nd time that it has been available to the students of Alexander Central High School. Tonight I have with me Ms. Jennifer Edsel, who has been a chaperone for 2 years now and has provided invaluable support to me. I also have student participants Sarah Heath, Catherine Tia Clonch, and Kaylee Griffin, and you'll get to hear from them in just a minute. As you may remember, back in October, ACHS hosted 25 students and 2 teachers. They had the opportunity to visit the Biltmore House, the Blowing Rock, Fort Dobbs, Lucas Mansion, in addition to attending classes and living with a host family. The French students were able to practice their English skills while making friends and experiencing an American life, which for them is a dream come true. I think all of our students, while we were in France, very quickly realized how popular our culture is. They don't realize it until they get over there and they're like, hey, wait a second, that's American and that's American, and oh my gosh. for the French students to come here and get to actually live in America for a while is a dream come true for many of them. I have heard from many of our parents and students that were part of the exchange back in October saying, oh, I'm still in touch with my French student and we're exchanging messages on Facebook, or I got a Christmas gift from my French student. Here's what they sent me. I can't pronounce a word of it, but. Wonderful situations came out of our situation in October. This year we had 15 students from the high school sign up to go for our trip to France to visit the French students. In addition to myself and Miss Edsel, we had 2 additional chaperones. Mr. Dennis Jones, who is a math teacher at the high school, and his wife Kathy joined us. Starting in early March, the way I set this program up 6 years ago is I wanted to set it up so that these students would one day be willing to study abroad on their own. So that when they go to college and they see that opportunity to spend a month, spend a semester, spend a year in a foreign country, they go, I'm gonna do that. I've already gone for 10 days, I can do this. So starting in early March, they actually had classes once a week during Smart Lunch. We met. And we covered topics: what to pack, how to get through the airport, because some of these kids have never been on a plane, how to deal with TSA, how to take care of your passport, cultural stereotypes that they would encounter both in seeing the French and also how the French see them. Some of them had some real eye-openings of what are American stereotypes of Americans. Personal safety tips. Because obviously being in a big city like Paris, we had to worry about pickpockets. So I had a whole series of videos for them to learn about the different scams. And as we're walking through Paris, they're going, Madame, look, that's that scam that you told us about. It was wonderful to know that they had actually paid attention during those classes. We also learned how to read a metro map. Because if you don't know how to read a metro map, you're not going anywhere in Paris. And when we got to Paris, they can all tell you at some point I handed them the metro map and said, we're here, we need to go here, how do we get there? Now you have to tell the whole group how we're going. And so they had to go around to all of their classmates and say, we're getting on this metro, we're getting off at this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And then they had to make sure the group stayed together while we were going through the metro. I like them to be as responsible for this trip as much as I am. We went over an overview of the sites that we would visit, and we also discussed how do you live with a host family. They worked very hard. In fact, we even had them bring a packed suitcase to school, and for about 10-15 minutes had them running all over their schools, carrying their suitcases up and down stairs and lifting them up, so they would be ready for the rigors of public travel. I have some pictures for you of our trip. Let's see here. Oops, wrong button. When we got to Paris, we were off right immediately. We went to the Arc de Triomphe. They got to go down the Champs-Élysées and do some shopping. We even had a couple who went into the Louis Vuitton store. That night, we went up the Eiffel Tower. The next day we went to the Louvre Museum. The top right picture there, they still have some of the foundations from the original Louvre when it was originally built. And that is one of the areas of the Louvre where the students where you're actually able to touch and you can feel the walls that have been there for, gosh, I think she said, what, 1200 is when it was originally built. The bottom 2 pictures underneath that, obviously the most important painting to get your picture of is the Mona Lisa. It's that itty bitty painting there. And I do have a picture of some of our students that braved the crowds to try to get their one shot of the Mona Lisa. Normally that room is actually filled with larger other paintings. Unfortunately, they're redoing that room, so the only painting in that huge room was the Mona Lisa at that time. We did go by Notre Dame Cathedral, as you may know. A couple days before we left, there was the fire at the cathedral. This was about as close as we were able to get to it, but the students, it was neat because they all felt this draw, this pull to actually be a part of it. They kept saying, how close can we get, Madame? Let's get as close as we possibly can. And we stopped at an area on the side just above here, and somebody goes, hey, wait a second, there's a lower area. How do we get down to that lower area? And you can't tell, but those are actually our students sitting there on the riverbank looking across at the cathedral. I am keeping up tabs with what's going on in France. They are working desperately to decide how they're going to rebuild it and make sure that the structure one day is able to be visited again. The next day, we went up to Montmartre. We went to the Artist Square. They got to see some local artists practicing their craft. And then we went to a creperie together and shared a meal. They got to try all sorts of crepes, both meal crepes and dessert crepes. And then we were on a train to Normandy. For some of them, this was their first opportunity to ride a train. So we rode a train up to Normandy. Their host families took them, and for 2 days they were with their host families. And hopefully these girls will share just a little bit about what they did with their host families. I can say that for the chaperones, we stayed together. We had a wonderful meal on Easter Sunday, and then we went to the city of Honfleur, and the next day we went to the city of Rouen. And actually, here's a picture from the city of Rouen. This is a church that was built at the site that Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. Built in her memory. So we had a really good time. The church itself is really impressive. A lot of beautiful stained glass light in it. And I loved that sculpture there of Joan. Rouen, the people of France weren't the ones who actually executed Joan of Arc. It was the English. And so the city of Rouen, the people of Rouen, to this day still hold her very high in regard. There is nothing left of her because when she was burned, they took all of her ashes and scattered them in the river that goes through Rouen, so there would be nothing left for the Christians to hold on to, for the French to hold on to. And so all they have is the place to say this is where Joan was burned. And I think they've built a very fitting tribute to her. The next day, we were off to field trips with the students. We went to a fromagerie in Livarot. The students got to try 4 different types of Normandy cheese. Some more liked than others. They also got to see how the cheese was made. Then we went over to the city of Lisieux and had a picnic outside of the Basilique Sainte-Thérèse. And students got to go in and do a tour. And this day, as we were doing through this tour, the students that came here, a lot of them were on this tour with us, so that was kind of fun. Then it was off to a distillery at the Château de Broglie, and the students learned how they make the different apple ciders and calvados that the Normandy region is very well known for. And then just so the students could have a tasting, they worked with a local company that made apple juice and let them all taste some native apple juice to Normandy. One of the pictures, the middle picture there, I'll tell you, the kids had a blast with this. It was a chair that you could sit on, and it would tell you what your weight was in apples. And they kept competing with each other as to who weighed the most apples, and then, okay, how many people can we fit on the chair and try to see how many apples we can get? And it was pretty accurate because Miss Etzel sat on it once, and then she went and got an actual apple and sat on it, and it only increased her weight by 1 apple. So yeah, we were impressed with that. Skip a day. The next day we went to, or the next day was a Wednesday, and they were in classes with their host student. Wednesdays are a half day, so they only had half day of classes. The reason why they do half days on Wednesdays is the other half of the day in France, that's when they get in their extracurriculars. You're going to go to your community centers and get your music classes, or your, you're going to participate in a sports team, or your art lessons, or those kind of things on Wednesday afternoons. So that Thursday we went to the D-Day beaches. We went to Gold Beach and saw some remains of German artillery. And then we went over to the American Cemetery, where over 9,000 American soldiers have been buried, including the bottom right picture. There is a huge wall in the back where they have all of the missing and unknown soldiers that they don't know what happened to them. And the neat thing is the tour guide that we had told us, next to some of those names, there is a very small star. That means the remains were found afterwards, and the family chose to have that person repatriated to the United States. And the students, they told me afterwards, they said, we wish we could have spent more time in the cemetery. They were very moved by this day. The top right picture is actually Utah Beach. We got out very quickly to see the memorial that's there and took a picture. That afternoon, we spent time at a museum called the Memorial de Caen. It is a museum dedicated to peace. It starts out in World War I and talks about how the peace process fell apart, takes you through World War II, all with the idea of what does it take for us to attain peace. And it's a very, very powerful museum. I've never had any students say, I can't believe we went there. They're always like, oh, Madame, did you see this picture? Did you see this story? Did you hear this video that we watched? It's a very powerful day for the students. And then my last picture for you, this was the last day. The students spent all day in class. In the afternoon, after classes were out, some of them got to go down to the city. I saw them in cafes and so forth. And then we had a potluck dinner with the family. We got a group photo, and then we're on a bus back to Paris for our early morning flight the next morning. So I will now pass it off to the students, give them an opportunity to share with you about their personal experiences.
Hi, I'm Tia, or Catherine. I'm a junior at the high school, and this was a stretch for me because I've never been on a plane before, never been on a train before. The farthest out of North Carolina I've been is West Virginia. I actually also paid for the entire trip by myself with the money that I worked at McDonald's to earn. I spent, like she said, the 2 days in Paris, and it was such a great experience to be in a different culture and with an entirely different language, different people. It was just so overwhelming at first, but it was such a lovely time that whenever we went to the D-Day Museum, I actually completely forgot we were in a different country because it was just, I was used to it by then. Whenever Madame actually said pardon to somebody, which is the way to get somebody to like move out of the way very nicely, I then realized, oh yeah, we're in France. The first 2 days that we spent with the host family, we actually went on a bike ride through the woods. The family that I stayed with was actually the family that I hosted whenever she was over here. So I got more time to bond. Also, me and Kaylee being best friends, and her best friend hosted Kaylee, we got to spend time together as well. It was just overall a really great experience, and I definitely want to go out of the country again, especially if I were able to go to France. And going through the metro and everything, it seems a little hectic, but once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. And everybody tries to be as nice as possible, and everyone's really polite and very patient for all the tourists, so it's a great place to be.
Catherine, what was your most favorite part of the trip if you had to pick one thing?
It would have to be the top of the Eiffel Tower, because I'm also insanely scared of heights, so Madame would let me hold on to her as we went up the elevators, because I also am terrified of elevators. But when we got to the very, very top, I was able to actually let go of Madame and just look around, and it was nighttime, so you saw everything lit up very beautifully. And then I believe it was right around midnight, all of the lights for all of the monuments turned off, most of the main monuments turned off all at once. But whenever they were on, you could see the Louvre Museum, you could see Notre Dame Cathedral, you could see all of the things because they were all just lit up and everything was just so beautiful.
How'd you feel about being on an airplane that long?
Well, okay, so like I said, I'm entirely afraid of heights. So I was super scared about the first airplane took off, we were in the air for an hour. Well, not even an hour, but it made me feel really comfortable, and I couldn't wait for the next flight. It was really hard to sleep on the plane because I'm used to a bed. I've never been on a plane. I've never had to sleep on a plane, but it wasn't that bad. We could watch movies and everything.
Good presentation. Good job. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Heath. I'm a senior here, and I did not have a lot of experience with French before this at all. I'm actually taking Spanish now, so definitely a little bit different for me. I wasn't really expecting it. But this fall I hosted Matthew, and he was really great. He's really hilarious and really sweet and nice, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually didn't even realize that AC went to France, but towards the end of the week when we were hosting Matthew, he said, "Sarah, are you going to go to France?" And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, that would be really cool. So I talked to my parents about it some, and after a while, they were a little bit worried about it at first, but after a while, they agreed to let me go. And it was a really great experience. In Paris, we got to see some really amazing places, as you saw in the slideshow. And meeting Matthew's family was really great, too. They're all really sweet, and they made me feel like a part of their family. They just kind of let me in, like welcomed me in, and I loved being around them. My favorite place we went to was Etretat, and it's a beach, but it has cliffs like around the beach line, and there's arches in the rocks, and it's just a really beautiful, amazing place. I also really enjoyed getting to go to the D-Day Memorial Museum. My great-uncle, or great-great-uncle, was actually in D-Day, and he fought in the first wave, and he died there, but it was really cool to be able to see that and kind of think about, like, he was fighting here, and I got to go there, too, and see the same place. But yeah, it was a really amazing experience, and being able to see other part of culture and other part of the world was really great. And I think being able to go as an exchange student and being able to actually be part of their family and live in their house is just a totally different experience than just traveling by yourself. But yeah, it was really great, and I definitely hope I can go back and continue to travel a lot. So.
Sarah, what's your favorite part of the French culture?
Everybody there seems really nice. Like all the kids, like they're all so welcoming and nice. All the students, they all seem like they get along very well. It's not, at least I didn't see a lot of drama or anything. Everybody's just so nice there, and I really like that. And they're all really happy to meet us and want to know us better. So.
Good job.
Hi, my name's Kaylee. I'm in 10th grade, and I'm a level 2 French student. I didn't get to host anyone, but I did have a student follow me around, and we became best friends while she was here. We had an incident where she had to go with another student for maybe a day, and she was crying. Like we had such a strong bond over so little days. I decided to go on this trip because I've always wanted to travel. It's been a dream of mine. I don't have a lot of money, so it's kind of hard to experience that. Also, I'm super into art and fashion and stuff like that, so this was a perfect opportunity. You know, every little girl dreams about seeing the City of Love, so when I saw this, I immediately asked my mom. So staying with the host family, that was a really, really good experience. I was nervous about it at first, but we instantly, as soon as I walked in the door, her mom gave me a huge kiss on the cheek. She was so nice and so friendly. Me, her, my student, and her sister, we sat on the couch watching cartoons all day. So it wasn't much different than from being at home. One thing that this trip has helped me with is opening up and being less shy. It was extra hard trying to talk to people with the language barrier, but surprisingly, I opened up to a lot of people and I made a lot of friends while I was there, a lot of connections, and especially with my host family, they invited me back anytime that I wanted to go back. If I needed anything, they said just to email them, and I do still keep in touch with them. So.
Kaylee, tell the board something that you noticed that was very similar in France to the way life is here, and then something that was extremely different.
Something similar, their day-to-day is pretty much the same. You know, they watch TV just like we do. They they have, meals together and everything. One thing that was different, probably, they seem nicer than a lot of they were so welcoming, and whenever the students came over here, there was kind of like hesitation. They didn't really know, like, should I go up there and go up to them and try talking to them, should I not? But whenever we went to the French schools, everyone was trying to talk to us, and they were really friendly.
How's the food at your host families?
They had a vegan daughter, so they only fix vegan meals. I'm not vegan, so it's definitely different.
So you were starving.
I was definitely ready to come back home and have some Bojangles. That was the first thing I asked my mom to do for me.
Yeah. Great. Good presentation.
Yes,
good job.
And Ms. Edsel would like to share a few things with you.
So I have gotten to share in this experience with Nancy for a little while now, and we went last year, and I was able to host 2 teenage French girls for the exchange when they came here, which was just loads of fun. I really didn't know what to expect, and we had many hilarious moments. I was surprised at how much they like peanut butter. I had a humongous container of peanut butter, and the first day I said, what would you guys like for lunch? Do you want to eat school lunch or do you want to pack lunch? And they said, oh, we don't know. So I said, well, how's a peanut butter jelly sandwich for tomorrow? And then the next day I'll fix you guys something fancier for lunch. Well, they ate their peanut butter jelly sandwich that day, and that evening they said, Jenny, we love peanut butter. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I said, I'm glad you guys love peanut butter. And every day I tried to fix them something different for lunch. I said, what about, wraps or turkey and cheese or pizza? No, peanut butter and jelly. And so we went through a humongous container of peanut butter. And it's just a really amazing experience, and I just have to give some praise to Nancy because she spends so much time organizing and making contacts in France as well as with the travel agency to get everything lined up. It's a lot of planning, and she communicates so much with the students to see, well, what do you guys want to do? Because she said many times, this is their trip, and it truly is a trip of a lifetime. Some of the highlights for me personally was one student who said, I got to swim in the English Channel yesterday. And I said, you got to swim in the English Channel? And he said, yeah, I'd never seen the ocean before. He had never been to the beach before, but he was swimming in the English Channel. We also were able to sit in on their classes at their school and see how life is at a French school. And I was about to sit in on this math class, fully knowing I was going to understand nothing. And the class gets started, and the French professor hands out the sheets to our students as well. And it blew my mind because our students are sitting there and they're like, math, this is great, we can do this. And then it was all word problems in French. But they sat there and they translated the word problems into English, and I was shocked and amazed. And I was like, what does this say? Wait, how do you do this math problem? And they did the math problems that were written in French. So this program is effective in so many different areas. The students are not only getting this phenomenal experience of travel and of education, but it's broadening their horizons and making them better people. And like many of these girls said, they had a fear that they overcame through the trip and something that they're developing on as an individual. So I want to give a round of applause to Nancy for planning all of this.
To wrap up, was funny, the last couple of days, I had students coming up to me and going, Madame, would it be a crime if we missed our flight and had to stay 2 more weeks? And I pull out my phone and show them a picture of my 6-year-old and say, no, this is why we have to go back. He needs his mommy. You've had me for 10 days. He needs his mommy now. I've asked the kids for reflection since then, and many of them have talked to me. They wanted to stay longer. They want to go back. They said, Madame, my family told me that I can come visit them anytime. And I've told them the neat thing about an exchange program like this is you go ahead and get into the culture. These families have accepted them, and they can call them 5-10 years from now. And those families will say, sure, come back. We'd love to have you. I'm very proud of how our students handled themselves on this trip. I cannot tell you enough how well behaved they were. Excellent members of the community. They represented their school very well. They faced their challenges straight on. I had a lot come to me before, as they mentioned. I have anxiety. I'm nervous. I'm scared of this. I'm afraid of this. But they faced those challenges head on. They didn't back down. And even when I turned to them and said, you're going to have to give the waiter your order because I'm not doing it, or you're going to have to talk to this French person because I'm not doing it, you've got to do it. They take a deep breath and go, okay, and they do it. To see them grow over these 10 days, the kids that I picked up at the airport are not the kids that I brought back. And that, for me, is the reward. I'm incredibly grateful to Ms. Edsel for all of her support and pre-organization help, even just me coming down there and going, oh my gosh, we have to schedule a bus for this and this and this, and I don't know what to do, and her going, it's okay, Nancy, it'll all work out. She was incredible support for me. I've already asked her to come next time. I am thankful to Mr. and Mrs. Jones who helped keep our group safe during travels. I assigned the chaperones a certain number of students to make it quicker to evaluate that we have everybody. So all I have to do is go, you got yours, okay, let's go. They did an incredible job providing good support for the students. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Palmer and Dr. Hefner and you for allowing us to have this program, allowing these students the opportunity to experience French culture firsthand, both here and abroad. And from the headmaster in France, he spoke at the potluck dinner, and he spoke about how important an exchange like this is for our students and for our communities, and how honored he is to be a part of this. So thank you for allowing this to happen. You are changing these students' lives as much as I am. So I can answer any questions, or we're pretty good.
I want to add just a little bit to this.
Go ahead.
Not much. You guys have told it all. I would like to commend you and Ms. Edsel on the organization, because I have never been a part of something that has been handled with such organization. As a parent with a child on the trip, I had no concern whatever what was going on. You guys communicated that well. Parents knew what was expected, what was going on. The students knew, and it was just outstanding job of organization. And I just would like to add, Felicia reminded me of this today. Felicia was a stand-in parent at a couple meetings. She said, do you remember that Madame said that she was going to immerse the students in the culture? And I said, yes. And as y'all have heard, they were immersed. And so it was an experience for our kids, for our students here in the county, that they probably wouldn't have that opportunity. And I think one of you girls mentioned it was a trip of a lifetime. And it was amazing to see. We went through the metro. So I know we cheated. We used Google Maps. And it'll tell you, if you get a train, it'll tell you which one to get on. But they were using an actual map. We weren't that brave. We didn't have Madame with us to be our backup. So we did cheat, but that's an experience in itself. And I should have been at the meeting with the luggage. I needed that one. But thank you both for everything.
After about 10, 15 minutes, they're all going, Mom, I'm tired. Like, how many things are you taking out of the suitcase before we leave? And usually some of them come back with a much smaller suitcase than what they showed up with.
Well, in France, it's not like America. They don't have escalators and elevators
Not
everywhere.
as many. Not
So
as many.
we had some nice young gentlemen see us struggling and help us. So. But thank y'all for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brixey has a comment.
I just have one comment, particularly to the students, but also to you folks. The study abroad, if you go on to college, they have much more extensive, you can study for a year or a semester. My daughter's going to be studying in Sweden in the fall, and she goes to UNC Greensboro. They are begging students to sign up for these international programs. They have very few students that take advantage of the opportunity because they think it's super expensive. So if you want to do this again and you're at a university level, I encourage you to try, because I pay the same tuition regardless of whether my daughter is in Greensboro or in Vaxjö, Sweden. I'm sure I said that wrong, but look into that, and I commend you, young lady, for working so hard to be able to do this trip.
I also had a daughter that's studied abroad. She did a semester in Germany, but the downfall for us was she went there the next 3 summers. So spent a lot of time there after that.
Great job.
Wonderful.
Good job.
Yeah, that's my fear.
Yes. We welcome Dr. Betsy Curry.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll tell you, today has been, these last few weeks have been those weeks of that just intensity at the end of the year. And you come here and you hear stuff like we've heard tonight from Mr. Draper, and you appreciate how far they've come in 1 year. And then to hear these people, the commitment they have. So what I'm going to share with you is evidence, I think, of the commitment of the people in this district to our students and the people who work here. So I'm excited to share this with you. This is actually called the Roadmap of Need, and it was released to the forum on April 14th at a conference in Greensboro. They've been doing this study since 2010. So I went back to 2017 and looked at some of the results. And it uses data on health, youth behavior, safety, education, and economic development to take a whole child needs assessment to see what types of environments our children are living in and how we're doing with them. So I think this is pretty fascinating information because we hear a lot of things anecdotally, and then to hear this almost confirmed, it really helps us quite a bit. So hopefully you can see this. Okay, these are the overall health rankings, and they look at 100 counties. They don't look at school systems. So if you look at our teen pregnancy rates, in 2017, they were at 30. 2018, they went to 37, and then 50th in the state. So we're losing ground with teen pregnancy. Number of physicians, we've never had a lot of physicians, but we're 87th out of 100 counties. Child fatality, we went from 7th to 6th to 58th. Now this can be a little bit misleading because we're such a small county, but to be at 58th, even if we are a small county, is very, very concerning. I don't know how many children that is. Child food insecurity. This is interesting because you're going to see something later on that talks about childhood poverty and how that's going down in Alexander County, but child food insecurity is going up. So we were 41st for childhood food insecurity, 45th in 2018, and now we're at 48th. Childhood obesity, which is another sign of poverty because parents are quite often feeding children fast food, and that contributes to that. So childhood obesity has gone in 3 years from 18th to 75th in the county. And to me, that's stunning, or in the state, I'm sorry, that's stunning. So overall, our rankings for health out of 100 counties is we're 78th in the area of health. And just look what's happened in 3 years' time. So this talks about the rates per, if you look at each one of these again, we look at the state of North Carolina because in addition to looking where we were 3 years ago, we like to see where we are in comparison to the state. So teen pregnancy, our rates per 10,000 is 34.2 and the state is on average 30.5. Number of physicians, well, we know that. We have 4.16 physicians for every 10,000 people, but I'm not sure how many people are in the county.
37,000.
37,500. So that's about right, isn't it? Child fatality rate, 6.49 per 10,000. Child food insecurity, 22.3, and the state is 20.9. Child obesity percentage, 18.5 compared to the state at 16.10. It's hard to believe when you hear things like what Mr. Draper is sharing with us and you hear these presentations from these children and you see these kids all lined up here, that this is going on. Youth behavior rankings. Juvenile delinquency, we've gone from 65 to 88 out of 100 counties. Short-term suspensions, 16 to 27. We're still in the top, almost top quartile for being strong and not suspending our children despite the rise in child or juvenile delinquency. Juvenile detention admissions, we've gone from 22 to 45th. Children in DSS custody, we've gone from 76 to 74th. Child abuse and neglect has gone from 93 to 76 to 65. And overall rankings for youth behavior has gone from 59 to 73. And again, this is the juvenile delinquency where we compare to the state. You can see that we're at 30.85 per 1,000 and the state's at 19.58. Short-term suspensions were very low compared to the state. That's good news. That means our staff, I think, is doing a better job at keeping kids in school. Juvenile detention admission, we're lower than the state average. Children in DSS custody, almost double. Child abuse and neglect, higher than the state average. So education rankings out of 100 counties, I think this is also very interesting, and this is what I'm talking about when I say that, you know, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. We do amazingly well in our school system when we look at what we have going on, and that's because you have teachers like Madame and teachers who go above and beyond constantly to meet the needs of kids. And I think sometimes it's really easy to lose sight of that. But our graduation rate in the last 3 years has declined. We're 57th out of 100. And I think that's on the cusp of turning around. All indications are that it is on the cusp of turning to the positive. Third grade reading, however, 29th, 29th, and then we had a big jump last year, 19th. So I know that you've heard in conversations that I've always been really concerned about our ELA scores and our literacy, but we're 19th in the state out of 100 counties. And so I think part of it is the way that they measure ELA proficiency. It's lower than math, but you have to get like 80% of that test right in order to pass. And math, you only have to get like 55% right in order to pass. So it's misleading the way that we look at data. Math 1, at one point we were 7th, went to 14th and to 44. Again, preliminary scores are looking really positive. We're going to bring that back down. ACT, very proud of this. We were at 20th, which is still really good, and now we're 12th in the state. Having met or exceeded growth, we're in the top third. We're close to the top third. But overall rankings, we're 21st out of 100 counties, which given what you saw on the previous 2 slides, I think that's pretty amazing. And I really attribute that to the people that we have working in the schools every single day with these children and giving of their time, their effort, their resources, their heart, their love, and being more to these kids than sometimes they get at home for some of our children. You can see where we fall again. Reading proficiency. We're at 64.3, where the state's at 57.8. Graduation rate, we're not that far off from the state. Math 1 proficiency, we're not that far from the state. ACT composite, not that far from the state. and the percentage of AMO targets met. That used to be AMO, now it is the number of schools meeting or exceeding growth. But in 2018 and 2017, it was AMO targets, and that was the annual measurable objectives. Okay, thank you. I knew I had a testing person out there. Economic development rankings out of 100 counties. Median household income, we've gone from 17 to 37. Childhood poverty, we've gone to from 23 to 35 to 10. So that's what's contradictory to me, is we have only 10, or we're 10th in childhood poverty, but I think what's happening is that parents are maybe not necessarily spending their money on their children. And I'm speaking very, very generally, but when you have a child poverty rank of 10, but you have more children in childhood obesity, more children who have food insecurities, and it just makes you wonder what causes that.
But these numbers do correlate with our free and reduced lunch numbers because they have declined at all schools.
A lot of what I get to see is that the kids are coming from either single family or parents, two parents, but they're working low income jobs, so the unemployment rate has dropped dramatically. And so they're coming up out of poverty, but the children aren't being pulled along because their income's not high enough for some of the other stuff. So the families, we get a lot of families that are really addicted to fast food, and it has to do with time issues in the work thing. So they're stopping, and literally you can look at their stuff and see that they're going to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at least breakfast and dinner fast food. And that usually is the kid getting school lunch in the middle of the day. But we get their bank records. I can't tell you much, but it's amazing how much more this is prevalent now. That's feeding into obesity and the other problems. But it's an interesting phenomenon.
It is, and I do know of a family that the minute they both were working, even though it was minimal income jobs, they no longer qualified for any kind of support or services. So they were actually living in a worse situation than when one of them wasn't working and they were able to collect benefits. So
and potatoes are cheap, and fresh fruits and vegetables are not cheap. So.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Adults with a bachelor's degree, in 2017 we were 79 out of 100, 85 in 2018, 83 in 2019. This is part of the rationale for an early college. If we want to grow economically and develop, we have got to have an educated populace. And when you start with that associate's degree, it leads to a bachelor's degree. I was a first-generation college student, and I have my doctorate, but it took me many years to get that first degree, much longer than it should have. Single-parent households, not a lot of change there, a bit of a decline, which is promising. And overall rankings for economic development, we're 34th out of 100 counties. So we're making some progress there in some areas, and we're holding steady there. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. I just have to say that again, it stuns me. And this time of year, we all get probably a little bit more emotional and a little bit more engaged and a little bit more stressed, and everybody is doing so much more that it's really hard, it's really easy to get caught up in that constant cycle and to become frustrated and to focus on what's not happening because we so desperately want it to happen for our children. But having nights like tonight and days like today where I had an opportunity to have a really good conversation with the principal just really makes me just so grateful. Seeing Jenny Edsel, and I had a good conversation with Crystal today too, the leader in me school, and seeing Madame and these children talk. We do a lot with very little. And so I'm very, very proud to be here, and I thank you, and I thank Alexander County Schools. Do you have any questions for me, any comments?
Appreciate your work. Okay. This time I'll recognize the doctor to my left, Jennifer Havner, for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chairman Odom. This is also attached in your agenda, so I'm going to move through it quickly. The first bullet is about visiting Stony Point Elementary School, and Mr. Palmer has asked if you all would be willing to join them for breakfast on Tuesday, May 28th at 8:30. That's a little different from what we have been doing in the past as far as going at lunch. Could you let me know either sometime tonight or in the morning if that would work for you, and I'll get back to Mr. Palmer. I have listed a variety of very important dates coming up, the first one of which will be Sunday, the 19th at 3 at the auditorium. We will be having the honor graduate ceremony, and then I've listed a variety of other things there that I feel like will be of interest to you. Today we watched the North Carolina School Board Association webinar. It was entitled School Violence Prevention, Establishing an Effective Student Threat Assessment Process. It was wonderful. I made lots of notes. Dr. Helton, is she still in here? She just walked out. I have lots of questions to ask at leadership on Monday as far as where we are in some of those processes. But if you did not catch it and you want to see it, all you have to do is use that link that I provided with the username and password. It's available now until 11 at night. So just a lot of good stuff. It was stunning to me, all the research that they have done with the school shootings, and they really have no real profile of students. You can't say it's all white males and that sort of thing, that they were all isolated and loners. But the webinar certainly reiterated that we need to get to know our students and their families so that we can assess situations and determine how serious of a threat that a situation might be. The next thing that I would like to do is provide to you a hard copy of the new strategic plan. It is yours to make notes about, to ask me about if you run across something in there. I'm sorry, I maybe gave one too many, did I? Ask me about if you're not sure, but it tells a beautiful story. The layout is very attractive. What I find is easy to read, and I hope that you enjoy it. We certainly will use it a lot during the next 3 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the last thing that I skipped one thing. The June board meeting will be here before we can blink because it's a week earlier than normal, and it is on a Monday evening. It's going to be on Monday, June 3rd. It will be in this room as usual, and I just need you to make sure that you've marked your calendar. We always do this so that we can meet prior to the high school graduation. And that will be held that Friday evening at 7. So you'll get all kinds of instructions from me, even down to where we will sit on the stage the night of graduation. But please make that change in your calendar. And the last thing, I'm so jazzed about next week, we're going to have the S.B. Watts Little interviews. And that is something that I look forward to every year because I ask students, what can you tell me that we could have done better during your time with us? And just some of the takeaways that I gather in interviewing all of those students. It's heartwarming to hear them talk about their future plans, but also it's a great learning experience for me as the leader, because even as well as we're doing, we could always improve, and that's the goal here, is continual improvement. So I thank all of the staff members here this evening throughout the system, and I wish all of the staff a happy, belated Teacher Appreciation Week last week. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, item 6, unfinished business. We'll recognize our CFO, Ms. Sherry Mahaffey, regarding some policies.
We have 3 policies up for second reading tonight. I've received no comments or questions about these policies, and would ask that you approve them on second reading.
Okay. I have a motion regarding these policies.
Motion approved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. New business continued, Ms. Mahaffey.
We have 5 policies that are up for first reading, and I'll bring those back next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session to discuss personnel per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6.
So moved.
Thank you all for attending.